Right. All right. Greetings, everyone. Good morning. Just giving you all an intro for archival purposes. No one's watching yet. So wait for everybody to get in, and then we'll get started with today's stream. Got quite a bit to go over when it comes to wind at the moment. Okie dokie. Get a few things going here. Okay, do we have anyone on the stream yet? If you're on the stream, go ahead and give me a shout. Alright, still no viewers. Gonna get the word out there, and then we should hopefully have our audience start joining in soon. However, it is 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. Okay. Posting the notification to Blue Sky and X at this time. Okay, first viewer is in. Hello, welcome. We're going live to cover some of the east wind action going on right now. Looking at current wind gusts as of about 3 minutes ago or so. Okay, just posting the stream to X right now, waiting for an audience to get in here, and then we can begin our coverage. Alright, good morning anyone just tuning in. Hello, my name's Anthony. I'm your host for Puget Sound Stormwatch today. Whoops, that was a mistake. Alright, hello, welcome in first viewer. Good morning, how are you doing today? Waiting for a couple more people to get in or the first person to comment so we can really get this live stream underway. Alrighty, so for the first person just tuning in today, we're going over some live wind coverage right now. So this is the map of... Okay. Yeah. So first viewer is Ken. Good morning, Ken. Sunny and calm in Federal Way. So thank you again for tuning in on very short notice. Yeah, so I asked on the bottom of one of my recent Facebook posts if anyone would like to see live coverage on this as it begins, and got 14 reactions, and another person saying yes, really picking up here in the Highway 2 corridor. So I went ahead and posted that in the comment section. I posted it on all the major social media pages already. We're just waiting for some more people to get in. Not expecting a huge audience today since it is 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. Probably a lot of people working right now. Yeah, anyways, as of the last refresh, so this refreshes automatically every 15 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and put a link to this down in the comment section. It's the map that I'm using for updates. So windy up north and south, he asks. Yeah, so you can probably see it in a little clearer detail if we go to the windy.com map here. See, so right now the bulk of the winds coming out of the east, mainly from the southeast, but between the east and southeast respectively, are coming in here through the Stampede Gap. So some of this could be reaching Seattle, just not as intense as it is farther east. Like, most of the activity right now is staying east of I-405. So, I'm getting some new reports of strong wind gusts firing up around the Stevens Gap, finally. A little bit later than models showed. But also, you know, I've been watching some wind gusts down here in the Enumclaw area since about 7 this morning or so. And one other thing, too. If we switch this from wind gusts over to temperatures, we'll see something very impressive. We already have areas pushing 80 degrees, and it just hit 10 o'clock not too long ago. It's like this little observation station near Maple Valley here is now up to 79 degrees as of about 2 minutes ago. Already 78 down here in the East Highlands, even hitting 71 just to the northwest of Bellevue. So quite a few areas of 70s, even 70s all the way out here in the Kitsap Peninsula now, too. If this is right, 80 degrees out here in rural areas of Mason County, just outside of the Olympic National Park. And even 70 down here on the southwest tip of Ocean Shores. So, yeah, 81 if that one's reporting correctly. So, yeah, most recent update for the wind gusts right now It's 35 miles per hour for the Kangley area. 33 just east of the Wilderness Rim near Rattlesnake Lake along I-90. This is where the models have predicted the strongest winds. We haven't had any reports in this area just because we don't have any of those observation stations along this stretch of I-90. So we're really relying on the ones downstream. It seems the downstream ones are kind of underperforming a little bit. Be interesting to see what happens as we get closer to noon, because a lot of these models have been predicting winds peaking around noon now as the morning time goes on. Originally last night it had the peak earlier on in the morning, like we would have already peaked by now, but now it just keeps pushing that peak time back. This station down here in Enumclaw, near the golf course, has been going pretty erratic already this morning. If we switch this layer over the maximum wind gust, you see the max wind gust is already 56 miles per hour since midnight. It doesn't show you the time, however, but it just shows you the max gust being recorded at that station. So 56 miles per hour, southeast part of Enumclaw, 26 Black Diamond, 35 near Four Corners. 41 out here by Kangley. 40 miles per hour in Riverbend. 30 miles per hour at the 18 I-90 interchange. 33 in, well, between Snoqualmie and North Bend. Even if this one's reporting correctly, 32 mile per hour wind gusts at Olympic View Elementary and Federal Way. We're starting to occasionally see some of these easterly winds start to push in towards the metro, although it most likely won't be nearly as strong in the metro area as it is farther east in the foothills. So max temperatures already today. Trying to see if we have any 80s here in the SeaTac Metro yet. The closest one I'm seeing right now is a 79 down here near Maple Valley. I zoom out a bit. So outside of these 80 plus degree temperatures out in the open, not seeing anything hitting 80 yet here in the Seattle area. But pretty close along the Highway 169 corridor right now. It's definitely getting close. Should wind be expected up on Bonnie Lake this afternoon? It's possible, and let me go pull up the models real quick. So we have the 12Z NAM 3KM. Let me zoom in quite a ways towards the Seattle metro area to show you what it's looking like hour by hour. So if the NAM 3KM is right, then the winds have already peaked and will begin to subside slowly as we go on into the afternoon time. But Bonnie Lake area is right around here or so. And we have this cool little Mount Rainier wind shadow feature being casted on parts of the South Sound and Southwest Interior right now. This should be facing farther to the west if the east winds were actually coming out of due east. But these are coming out of more of the east-southeast direction. And so you can see this sharp cutoff on both sides of this little triangular shape here. These are winds out of the Stevens Gap. These are winds out of the Stampede Gap down here. And so it doesn't quite have those winds in the Bonnie Lake city limits. It wants to keep those winds farther north and east of Bonnie Lake. So I think Bonnie Lake's in the clear for this round. But nonetheless, after this event's over and we start going into Wednesday morning, the remnants of that frontal feature I was talking about yesterday start to come in. I believe due to the geometry of the frontal boundary moving in, you know how the top portion of it's going to move through the Strait of Georgia first before the main frontal boundary moves onshore on the coast. it's going to force some of these northerly winds out of the Strait of Georgia and the Strait of Juan de Fuca and give us a bit of a northerly breeze as we go from tomorrow night into Thursday morning. And it's going to hang around for a bit, because this model goes all the way out to Thursday at 5 p.m. and it's still picking up this northerly breeze coming out of the Strait of Georgia. We go switch over the streamlines. This has these easterlies, these east-south easterlies if you want to be really specific. It just has them hanging on. It's kind of fighting the onshore flow as we go into midnight. So we have the westerlies coming in the Strait of Juan de Fuca, but we still have northerlies, or excuse me, southeasterlies now going up through the Strait of Georgia until that front comes through. And then watch as these streamlines just flip-flop within the matter of a couple hours, and now we're screaming out of the Strait of Georgia. And then these northerlies really take hold over the Puget Sound area. So during this time, we're even seeing sustained winds of 10 plus miles per hour, not counting the gusts. As we go into about midnight Thursday or so. The winds are going to hang around. It's going to be pretty strong sustained winds, 10 to 15 miles per hour for parts of Lewis, Cowlitz, and even Clark counties, perhaps. The southern end of Thurston and Pierce counties along the Nisqually. They have some pretty strong northerlies after the remnants of this front comes through tomorrow. Like, this is Thursday at 5 p.m. and we still have these northerlies coming through. Be interesting to see what comes of this. When it comes to precipitation, though, I mean, extremely minimal. Maybe a pop-up shower here and there as the front passes through, but outside of that, any precipitation is mainly going to stay to the coast and areas about 20 to 30 miles inland, not counting Pacific County. Some of this could reach the lower Willapa Hills, though. Let's go switch to 1 hour precip amounts. I'm going to zoom out just a tad bit. So this shows some of these prefrontal showers moving onto the coast about 1 p.m. tomorrow or so. Now that I think about it, that's the actual front, so never mind that. I'm going to zoom out a little bit more to show you guys really the depth of this. So that's the actual front that's coming in. What's left of it, that is. Because the area of strongest low pressure is going to be moving well north of the Queen Charlotte Islands and Haida Gwaii area of BC, which is well north of Vancouver Island. And so it's just going to be the remnant of this frontal boundary that comes in. And really, all it's going to do is shift the winds to onshore and help cool us off quite a bit as we go into Wednesday night and Thursday morning. So really, in terms of shower activity, a lot of it's not going to survive the trek onto the coast. Because I put that in the motion. You can clearly see this frontal boundary here. This is 4 a.m. tomorrow, but by the time it moves onto the coast, it's just zilch for rainfall. Go to wind gusts. Yeah, clear as day, frontal boundary cut off right there. And as this front axis starts to cross over Vancouver Island down the Strait of Georgia, it's going to stir up these outflow winds down through the Strait of Georgia, as well as the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and then these two are going to converge and come down out of the north all the way down to the Columbia River Valley, as shown there. These are all the prefrontal wind gusts coming through. Like almost completely out of due north. A lot of this too has to do with an area of high pressure right behind this front. It's going to steer the winds clockwise around it. So after the front comes through, it's just going to be one mumbo jumbo kind of sloppy wind shift. Certainly a little bit unusual. I gotta admit, it's a little bit unusual. a first that I've seen in a long time, at least since I've been doing this full time. It's a first for me, for sure. I still have a few more comments coming in. A lot of reports coming in. So someone just said nothing around Issaquah, very calm in the valley. Okie. No wind in Spanaway, but perfect temperature and clear blue skies. Yeah, that's part of that wind shadow I was mentioning earlier. And see, that wind shadow's showing up perfectly clear on windy as well. We go up to 925 millibars. This is 2,500 feet. Now it's having a little bit of issue loading the layer right now. There we go. So, yeah, it shows these east-south-easterly winds coming in through the mountain gaps, mainly the Stampede Gap. That's the one that's most favorable for giving us east winds all around Seattle and Tacoma. Drawing it up towards the west-northwest right now, as this thermal-induced trough starts to move up I-5 in combination with... Let me go back to the European so we can see this. Combination with this area of low pressure too, but it's not too deep. It doesn't have too much of a vacuum effect right now through the Cascades. It's the combination of this deep trough out here plus the thermal trough moving up the I-5 corridor. It's a really perplexing kind of situation in real time. We have two different areas of low pressure pulling air in through the Cascade Gaps from the east. See, it's pulling in this air all the way from the Spokane area and the Palouse, all the way through these higher elevations and then down into the lower elevations. If we go back in time a little bit, yeah, it just doesn't seem like... See if I can pull up isobars for this. There we go. It's like low end to moderate in terms of deepness. 994 millibars is not that deep for a low, but it's probably just that in combination with the thermal trough moving up from Oregon right now. That's really just creating a pressure differential across these Cascade Gaps. And that's most likely what's causing these winds through the gaps as we speak. You see, it's even pulling the wind back out through the Strait of Juan de Fuca as well. And back out through the Chehalis River Gap between the Olympics and Willapa Hills. It's even pulling some out through the Columbia River along Cape Disappointment as well. So it's a completely textbook reverse onshore flow. So offshore flow. But just, you don't see it this clear in reality. Now, if we were pulling moist air in through the Cascade Gaps, sometimes you do get a reverse convergence zone on the opposite side of the Olympics. You know, I've seen it once or twice myself, but that's only if the air being pulled through is saturated, which is not. But sometimes, on occasion, I've seen it once in a blue moon, you can get a reverse convergence zone that forms off the Pacific here, as these winds wrap around the Chehalis Gap and the Strait of Juan de Fuca, but in reverse. I can't tell you how long it's been since I've seen that, though. Alright, let's go refresh this layer real quick. Starting, okay, there we go. First 80-degree reading. East side of Lake Tapps already. As assuming all of these stations are reporting accurately and there's no outliers, we are starting to see the 80s around parts of the lowlands and surrounding foothills. So 72 just outside of Bremerton, 74 in the Olalla area, 75 at Bremerton. Ooh, excuse me. 75 at Bremerton Airport. 78 in Northgate. 79 now, West Tiger Mountain. Still 79 in Maple Valley. 78 in Hobart. 78 near, just to the northwest of Hobart. Couldn't think of what this was called out here. Just one of those little residential stations that's reporting. So yeah, 78 near the Four Corners right now. 79 just outside of Enumclaw. 79 here in downtown North Bend. So we go and switch over the wind gusts. 32 here in Kangley. 33 miles per hour in North Bend. 34 in Riverbend. But yeah, still not seeing very much along the Stevens Gap out here. So the models have been picking up on this outflow out of the Stevens Gap here for a couple of hours now, but it's not verifying so far. Ooh, just got a comment out of Enumclaw saying the wind just tore down our shade canopy. Had to wrestle the tarp to bring it in. Okay, so I just got this photo from a viewer on Facebook. And this is her tarp canopy torn into pieces by the east wind already. Impressive. Too bad, but impressive. Okay, do we have any more questions or comments? Anyone that has anything they'd like to add? Or any new people just tuning in? Once again, my name's Anthony. I'm the host and founder of Puget Sound Stormwatch on Facebook and YouTube. Just going over some live coverage for the Easterly Gap Wind event right now. It's more of a lower end event. We're not expecting anything too damaging. So crazy, no breeze, even here in Lacey. Yeah, so right now with that, Lacey is part of this little wind shadow here as being picked up by Mount Rainier. It's a little bit harder to see on the Euro. You have to go to a higher resolution model like the HER or the NAM to really see it in detail. Yeah, like, so the NAM here, for example, shows areas all the way up from Seattle, Kent, parts of western Enumclaw, all the way down to Eatonville, and as far south as Grand Mound and Centralia, in this sort of Mount Rainier wind shadow. It's because the winds are more out of the east-southeast than they are the east. And so most of these winds are pushing up towards the northwest a bit. Just leaving some of these areas that usually get the east winds out of the equation right now. I was got kind of a little wind shadow all the way down the Cowlitz River Valley, following I-5 down to the Columbia as well. Yeah, most of this activity right now is situated between the pass, Enumclaw, Hobart, and North Bend areas. Mostly. That's where all the reports are coming in from. This little swath right here. Now, the maps are showing the winds picking up out of the Stevens Gap, but so far, according to reports, we're just not seeing this right now down Highway 2. I've seen one report along Highway 2 of winds with this little easterly outflow region, but no more than that. A lot of people in the Sammamish area, even one in Duval, saying no wind. He's showing a little wind shadow between those two gaps here from Duval all the way between Everett and Shoreline as well. So the station at Sunrise is reporting a wind gust of 45 miles per hour in the last few minutes or so. 38 miles per hour here in Crystal. 37 just outside of Greenwater. Winds have definitely started to subside here in Enumclaw a bit. So for some areas, yeah, it's possible it could have been a bust. It's too soon still to call it a bust. We still have to go through the afternoon for the most part because the wind advisory that NWS Seattle posted is in effect until later on this afternoon. And I can go and change layers real quick and pull that up as well. So these, I believe, are small craft advisories. Yes, they are. So small craft advisories there. And then we have our red flag warning until 11 p.m. So gusty winds, low relative humidities, and high temperatures. This is east of I-5 from the border all the way down to Olympia. Then it includes I-5 from Thurston County, south of Olympia, all the way down to the Lewis County border where the county warning area cuts off. And this includes points west of US 101 all the way up towards, as you go into Jefferson County, down to the county borders of Pacific and Grays Harbor. So kind of a weird shape on this red flag warning. And then this brown area, that's our wind advisory. So it's in effect until midnight. Now let's see if we have any updates since this was posted. No updates to the alert. It's still the same as when it was posted. So yeah, it's eastern lowlands and foothill locations from Lewis County all the way up to Snohomish County. So it includes parts of Lewis, Pierce, King, and Snohomish counties and the associated valleys with them. So now if we go back to max wind gusts since midnight. See, a lot of zeros too. We can go in deeper and see we had 50 miles per hour this morning here at Crystal. At 45 mile per hour gust at sunrise is the peak wind gust so far today. 56 miles per hour in the Enumclaw city limits earlier this morning. 40 miles per hour here in Riverbend near Rattlesnake Lake. 33 miles per hour as you start to go up towards the pass. 41 here in Kangley. 35 Maple Valley near Four Corners. Even had a 32 mile per hour gust here at Olympic View and Federal Way. 26, if this is correct, this one's been acting a little finicky. The Point Robinson Lighthouse on Maury Island. Been picking up consistent 20 to 30 mile per hour wind gusts for pretty much the entirety of the morning so far. And 16 miles per hour here near Discovery Park in Seattle. And then just a lot of very little gusts so far outside of the Stevens Gap here. So 16 miles per hour in Skykomish, 12 miles per hour near Index. So any of the action staying really local to the Stampede Gap right now. Like, not hearing any strong wind reports west of Enumclaw or North Bend yet. I think so far models seem to be overdoing the coverage, because it's been showing some of these wind gusts reaching as far west as Renton, Issaquah, and Sammamish as we go on throughout the morning. There is still plenty of time for things to change though, so I have to make that clear before we start calling busts. That there is still plenty of time. The wind advisory is in effect until midnight, and if we go back and check out some of these models again, let's see if the newest HER 3KM is rendered. So this goes out to 3 a.m. Wednesday. Let me zoom in a bit real quick. So as of 10 a.m., it has, of course, the strongest area of winds and wind gusts along I-90 between North Bend and Snoqualmie Pass, as well as parts of eastern King County outside of Enumclaw. There's quite a ways outside of Enumclaw to the east, but it does have this wind field expanding all the way into the Enumclaw, Black Diamond, and Maple Valley area. As we go on throughout the day, you notice that the winds definitely start to die off as we go on into the later afternoon hours. Then we start to pick up this onshore flow as the front starts to move onto the coast. So we're going to have a frontal boundary come onto the coast almost immediately after these winds stop and just flip the script in a matter of hours. Want it to be a bust, don't like the heat. Yeah, so the heat is one thing. There's heat, bone-dry air, and strong gusty winds. It's almost like something that you'd feel down in Arizona, for example. Like when you get those winds coming off the Superstition Mountains down into Phoenix, and it's over 90 degrees, pushing 100 degrees, and the humidity's down below 20%. It's going to feel kind of like that today. Let's check some temperatures. So the HER model has Renton hitting 80 degrees here in the next 20 minutes, if this were to verify. And it has SeaTac getting up to 80 by noon. It seems to be downtrending a little bit, because if we go back the previous model runs, it does have areas of Seattle hitting 90. So definitely a small little downtrend. You notice this white area starts to disappear as we go on through the model runs here. And then by 8 p.m., the winds start to back off and the temperatures are down into the lower to mid 70s. And then this frontal boundary pushes in this blue contour here, which shows temperatures in the 50s to lower 60s start to move up the I-5 corridor here. So that's the beginning of the frontal boundary moving in. These are 3-hour changes for temperatures. And these are just incredible. So it's showing from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. today. Temperatures will increase between 15 and 20 degrees, some even higher, all along the I-5 corridor in western Washington. That means from 9 to 12 today, the temperatures could go from the 60s well into the 80s, like that. And then as the winds peak, the temperature increases begin to go down. This is showing from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Only increases in the 5 to 10 degree range, for the most part, along parts of western Washington. And then the temperature decreases along the coast as we start to get the influence from that cold front moving in. And from 3 to 6, once the winds really start to back off, we start to see the temperature decreases. And then things just crash. 4 to 7, minus 10 degrees of temperature differential here at Arlington. 9 degree drop off in 3 hours at Renton. Negative 7 JBLM, negative 7 Fort Lewis, negative 16 all the way out here in Hoquiam. And then just some incredible temperature drop offs as we go into the afternoon. So this is showing between 6 and 9 p.m. tonight. This is over a 20 degree temperature drop off over 3 hours here in this purple contour. And then you notice how it moves to the east once that front comes in. And behind the front, not much of a temperature change whatsoever. Yeah, wow is correct. That is correct. Let's go look at some smoke maps. I'm going to zoom back out here a little bit. So, yeah, this is the offshore flow. It's pulling a lot of that smoke in from these two fires burning in Kittitas and Chelan County right now. I'll pull up the fire map. It's the Labor Mountain and the Lower Sugarloaf fires. Let me refresh this and see if we can get any updates on those. Doesn't seem like much has changed since my briefing went out yesterday. Still seeing some pretty impressive growth from these fires, though. Carrie says, thank you for teaching us as well. I appreciate learning. Yes, that's exactly why I'm here. This is what I want to do. I want to spread my weather knowledge to the public so that everyone is well informed of what's coming or what could come. Just so there's no misinformation going around. Alrighty. Going back to check Facebook real fast. I did have a live stream on Facebook last night. It wasn't very successful though, just because I think it was like, even though I had an RSVP added for the event, I just didn't have much viewership for it. I think it was just because it was later on in the afternoon on a Sunday, and you know, people were having dinner, starting to put their kids to sleep for school. So it's probably just a not so good time to have a live stream. You know, normally live streams work during the weekend, but just not very much as you start to go into the weekday. Yeah, I am starting to think that this area of low pressure here off the coast is having at least a little bit of an influence on the easterly winds. It looked like as this thermal trough was moving up I-5, it would start to really pull the winds out of the gaps. But the winds would be coming out of more of the northeasterly direction if it was lining up with where this thermal trough is. So unless the timing and the location of the thermal trough was completely wrong on the models, and it's already up here along the Olympics, then I don't see how this is lining up with the current observations with the winds. You know, I do think that this low pressure area off the coast has a much greater effect than what models are showing, if we're being honest. Because you notice as this low pressure area deepens a little bit and moves off to the north, and the associated cold front here starts to move in closer, the gap winds are following the center of lowest pressure. And then as this front moves in, it really kicks up these northerlies coming out of the Strait of Georgia here, and then the westerlies start coming out of the Strait of Juan de Fuca. That's when we start getting these northerly winds start to come through the Puget Sound area. Because at 6 a.m., the European model here shows the frontal boundary well off the coast still. But due to its geometry being a little more angled towards the northeast rather than towards the northwest, there's a little bit of a change in the wind patterns behind it as well. And see this area of high pressure here, which is also helping influence this surge of wind and moisture. Just the bad news is we're not getting much of this moisture whatsoever. It's mainly going up into northern Vancouver Island and parts of central BC. Yeah, you can clear as day see these northerlies and westerlies coming down through the Puget Sound. We return to onshore flow, but with kind of a weird wind direction compared to what we normally see. Truly, truly interesting. Huh. Yeah, Mount Rainier wind shadow has to be communicated. For sure. As soon as I saw that wind shadow, I was like, yeah, this is for sure going to have an effect on a lot of areas between SeaTac and Olympia. Normally, Mount Rainier's wind shadow would be for points farther west. So, for example, from, say, Tacoma all the way down to the Lewis County border, but due to the southeasterly oriented winds, or east southeasterly, excuse me. I keep mixing up my cardinal directions here, but more of the east southeasterly wind direction is shifting that Mount Rainier wind shadow to areas farther north that normally get the easterly winds but aren't going to get it this time around. Truly fascinating. Let's go back to current wind gusts. So 33 miles per hour for downtown Enumclaw, 37 for Kangley. Yeah, unfortunately, I was reading a comment. So if you guys follow Western Washington Weather on Facebook or YouTube, the owner of that, Matthew Fab, commented on my post talking about communication of the Mount Rainier wind shadow, as well as saying that it should not be a bust. Although I always have to communicate bust potential because the potential is always there no matter what. So if it does bust, I don't want to be the one to say it's not going to bust and then it busts. And there you go, reputation's ruined. You know, I don't want to be about that. So I always communicate the floor and the ceiling of all events, just so that everyone is aware of what's going on no matter what happens. And he was saying too, a lot of the areas where the strongest winds are occurring do not have live reporting weather stations. So from I-90, from just outside of North Bend city limits all the way up to the pass, there's maybe one station along the interstate here. And that's it. Let's see, so 39 miles per hour just outside of downtown North Bend. 25 miles per hour near the Rainier School in Buckley. Really, outside of that, not much happening. Really interesting to see nothing going on along the Stevens Gap right now. So you're like, we haven't had anything more than 20 miles per hour along the Stevens Gap so far. Very unusual. So 43 miles per hour down here near Glenoma. This is the southeast of Morton, near the end of Rife Lake. This area's been putting up some pretty strong numbers this morning as well. And that is actually the highest wind gust we've seen down there so far today, at 43 miles per hour. 20 miles per hour for Mossy Rock. Five miles per hour just east of the Nisqually entrance. 30 miles per hour at Chinook Pass, right around where that wildcat fire is burning right now. Could start pushing some of that wildcat fire smoke up through Chinook Pass, possibly through some of the White River Valley. Just depends on how much smoke it's producing right now, because we haven't had to worry about too much smoke with that fire. Someone on the coast says, blowing good out of the east on the coast right now. Really warm in Mo Clips. Still got a lot of reports of no wind coming in from around the gaps. Seems to be mostly centralized to the Stampede Gap right now, which is where you see this little white contour here end. This is the Stampede Pass gap right up here. So Stampede Pass is way up here, but the mountain gap starts just to the east of Leicester, which is an abandoned ghost town. This is the Green River, going down to the Howard Hanson Reservoir and then down into the valley to go through Black Diamond, parts of Enumclaw into Auburn. And then the Green River goes all the way up here to the Duwamish. So this is usually where you get your strongest easterly winds, is through this gap right here in the mountains. Okie doke. Yeah, quite a bit going on Facebook right now. Just getting notifications left and right. Also on Facebook, we're already making a run towards 24K here very soon. Let me go back and check the status of everything. So we're at 453 subs on YouTube. So thank you to that one person who subbed when my stream started. Appreciate that very much. We're at 23,420 followers on Facebook and still going up. Not bad at all. Trying to refresh, see if we get any new wind gusts around this area. Let's check temperatures as well. We're going to go max daily temperatures. Several 80s now. As far west as parts of I-405. Even 80 degrees out here in Northgate right now. So 80 degrees up at Grotto, just northwest of Skycomish. 80 degrees in North Bend city limits. Just hit 70 in my area. 81 on the east side of Lake Tapps right now. That's probably the highest temperature around here. We just tied that with Highway 169 along the Cedar River just east of Renton. Parts of Renton city limits are at 80 degrees now. 80 degrees on the north side of the Green River. And most of Enumclaw is about to get into the 80 degree threshold here very, very quickly. Meanwhile, still hanging on to the 40s and 50s. One station around here reporting 61 in the area of Mount Rainier National Park. Okay, so 83 now. So this is so far the highest temperature I've seen in Western Washington, is this 83 here in Lewis County. And tied with this 83 degrees at the station here in eastern Grace Harbor County. So these would be some of the best areas here to hit 90 degrees today before the day's over. And as I showed before on the model run, some of the models are showing 90 degrees for some areas of the I-5 corridor. But the chances increase the farther inland you get away from the water. Alright everyone, any more comments or questions you have for me? I'm more than happy to answer any of them. If you have any concerns you'd like to list, go ahead and do so whenever you feel like it. 73 up here at Leicester, just downstream of that gap. So yeah, the 80 degree temperatures are starting to move farther west towards I-5 now. Appears no new updates to wind gusts in the last 5 minutes or so. Looking outside my window right now in Milton, not even a breeze. Because Milton's in part of that Mount Rainier wind shadow that's going on right now. Yeah, I'm really surprised with how calm it is downstream of the Stevens Gap right now. Like getting some stronger wind gusts along the gorge as well. Let's switch this map over to gusts. If it decides to load. I guess Windy's having a little trouble right now loading the contours. Okay, so this is according to the high-res Canadian model right here. 70 degrees in Oso, dead calm after previous gusts. So already 70 up in Oso. Impressive. But yeah, this is showing the wind gusts coming out of all of the gaps out of the east rather than what we see out of the west typically. We have some weak wind going up the Strait of Georgia right now. Not very much. Most of it's coming out the Strait of Juan de Fuca. So stronger wind gusts along Nia Bay, parts of Quileute, Cape Flattery. And downstream from that, a reverse Olympic wind shadow in essence. And these outflow winds shooting out from the east from the Chehalis Gap, out through Grace Harbor and out along the coast. And then the outflow from between the Willapa Hills and Coast Range along the Columbia River. And see, it shows it here too on the Canadian as well. Mount Rainier wind shadow, textbook. Strongest wind gusts showing pretty well are along I-90 and parts of the Green River as well, reaching into the Enumclaw city limits. So Enumclaw, Black Diamond, Maple Valley, Hobart, and surrounding areas. Potentially getting some strong wind gusts right now. I think this might be because it forced me out of my Windy account. And now it's saying that I have no password linked to my account, which is extremely weird. So I'll have to rely on some low-res data on Windy until I get that figured out. See, it doesn't show the wind shadow as well with the lower resolution, but still shows it. It's a little bit wider than what the high-res models are showing. Yeah, I'm starting to feel like this low offshore has a much greater effect on the winds than the thermal-induced trough that's moving up to Western Washington right now. It looked like at first that the thermal-induced trough is what was going to pull these winds across the gaps. It's looking more like this strong low-pressure system off the coast is what's doing that. And it's mainly also due to how high the pressure is east of the Cascades as well, because that leads to a tighter pressure gradient through the gaps. And that's what creates the vacuum effect that pulls the winds in through the areas of least resistance, which are the mountain gaps. All right, in another 30 seconds or so, it'll be 1 hour of streaming. Which means it's about time for a stretch break as well. A lot of page invites being sent out. Because over 80% of my page viewers are non-followers. So I'm just sending out hundreds of page invites to people. Let's go refresh one more time. Okay, so yeah, wind gusts are decreasing for I-90 or North Bend area right now. Still seeing 36 miles per hour in the Kingley area, 32 miles per hour in downtown Enumclaw, 37 southeast of Greenwater still. And some extremely isolated areas along the Puget Sound seeing some wind gusts. But this is microclimates in a nutshell. While people will get winds today, there are some people in the path of these winds that will not get anything. That's just incredible, isn't it? We're no wind in Ording, Washington. Yeah, once again, Ording is in that Mount Rainier wind shadow. So, seeing hardly any wind between this line here and this line here. We include Mount Rainier, the wind shadow goes about like this. Also helping keeping some of our temperatures down for right now. At least until this warm air thermally induced trough starts to spread over the area and give a lot of the area the higher temperatures. Because the trough doesn't cause the temperature causes the trough. That's why it's thermally induced trough. But we call it thermal trough for short. Go back to the layers real quick. Yeah, so the National Weather Service in Portland hasn't issued any alerts for their region at all. That's where this Lewis County cutoff is. That's where the Seattle County warning area ends. I was kind of surprised they didn't put out a red flag warning for parts of the Southern Cascades, but that's just the National Weather Service in Portland deciding it's not necessary, probably. And yeah, I have not fully messed around with this site yet, but there's a lot of possibilities. For example, you can switch to hover mode, and it'll show you the current gusts as well as a max wind gust for each station. For example, I can go ahead and narrow it down to only 40 mile per hour gusts and above. Let's do 41. And then go to max wind gusts. Yeah, 60 miles per hour here, southeast of Mount Adams in eastern Washington. It shows 56 for Enumclaw, 41 for Kingley. So, yeah, not seeing too much at the moment. Maybe just a brief little lull in the winds. But we may have already peaked for a lot of areas. All right, so this, I believe we were talking about this earlier. This is vertically integrated smoke. So smoke up in the atmosphere that doesn't make it to the surface. It wants to pull a lot of the smoke to the north of Seattle for the most part this afternoon. Then when this front comes in, it starts to shove it back out to the north and east. So very short-lived little smoke episode there. It does have a little bit of this mixing down towards the surface too. And it pulls up the Wildcat Fire and the Bear Gulch Fire. But then, of course, once those frontal winds start to come in, shove that wildfire smoke right out. As soon as it was brought in, it's out. In a nutshell, right there. Onshore flow switches. Like right around the time we hit midnight or so, the onshore flow just comes in and boom, it's out of here. Yeah, this is showing humidity at 2,500 feet. So you're okay on humidity around here, and then it all dries out. Start to see the brown contours as those winds finally start to die out. And then the area of humid air gets pushed in by this front. That's going to replenish our humidity down near the surface as it moves in. This is probably your frontal system coming in this weekend. 100% humidity at 2,500 feet for a lot of western Washington. Is 100% looking like our next frontal system, which we can check out right now while we're passing time. Oh yeah. Textbook right there. We have a warmer, drier air mass ahead of the cold front, and then a cooler, wetter air mass behind the cold front. And there's the parent little system up there. That brings in the cold front. And it just becomes sort of a frontal frenzy as we go later into September. Huh, interesting. Even the Europeans even showing a system making landfall right off the coast. So I got to look deeper into this real quick. Oh, that would not be good if that happened. This is fantasy though. This is over 8 days in the future. It has a 986 millibar low that deepens to 985 in the ideal spot for a strong windstorm if that were to verify. And then it just starts chucking these systems at us. Look at that. That's incredible right there. 982 millibars just to the south. And then maybe at the end of this run, this is 15 days out, but maybe a little pleasant weather as we start going into October. But this is definitely a new development for me. This wasn't showing up in last night's model runs. See, it didn't have anything remotely close to that. It's all brand new. It didn't show it in yesterday's 12Z, it didn't show it in the 0Z, but it shows it in today's 12Z. So you guys on the stream are all seeing this real time along with me. This is my first time checking out this model. Definitely a bit different on the GFS. The GFS is close to agreement. This has different timing, track, and intensity. And then the Canadian doesn't have any of that. See what the ensembles have to say, because the ensembles usually tell the better story. They take 50 members, average them, and then spit out one solution. The ensemble's not quite done rendering, so it won't get the best story there, but the GFS ensemble should be done rendering. Yes, it's showing an area of low pressure there, but it's not as deep as the deterministics are showing. Keep doing wind updates before the 15-day mark. Many country folks have greenhouses that would appreciate a warning ahead. Yeah, absolutely. So, what I do too is I post all of my blogs on Patreon as well. And so this is the Patreon page. And so I just updated it with a post last night too, talking about this. I do also have an intro tier on here. If you want to see the really far extended and fantasy forecasts, I'll give you guys a preview real quick. So for example, this is one of the locked posts. This is one, if you select the intro forecaster tier for $1.99 a month, then I post these in-depth fantasy blog posts kind of like this. If you're coming over from Facebook and you see this, this isn't necessary, because if you're a subscriber on Facebook, you see the same thing. This is just for Facebook if you don't have Facebook, for retrospect. So if you don't have Facebook and you're watching this right now, this is the best alternative right here. So I have this link down below in my new descriptions on YouTube. I'll post the link to it down below. This is one of my premium subscriber posts that I made. So it's showing a comparison between the Euro and the American models over the next 15 days or so. Believe the European went out to 360 and the GFS went out to 384. It just shows the oscillation of ridges and troughs coming into the area, or what could come into the area. The GFS is going really robust. It's showing 5 systems, 3 of them extremely deep low pressure systems, moving into the area before the month of September is up. But I do have a lot of free posts. If you select the free membership option, you're more than welcome to. You'll see more of the short-term info as I get it. And as we get closer to the main events, I will start posting these on the free tier. But if you want to go way out, like the 15 days like I'm showing here, and want to see my accurate and in-depth analyses on these, then I do highly encourage that you purchase that tier 1 option. I call it Intro Forecaster. So yeah, pretty similar story on the ensemble, just not as deep. But that's a given because you tweak one parameter for 30 to 50 different models, and I believe the GFS ensemble has 30 members compared to the European ensemble, which has 50 members. The European also has an AIFS ensemble as well, which is artificial intelligence forecast system. So has a different calculating algorithm for the European. See, the European is just going nuts right now on this. Oh yeah, big time wind fields if these were to verify. So frontal boundary comes in here. Once again, we're still 5 days out. But this is what they're talking about for wind this weekend. See the sharp frontal boundary here. Then bring some relatively low end gusts to western Washington. I didn't see any more than 25 miles per hour for SeaTac right there. Then the remnants of a weak frontal boundary, which Looks like it has a low pressure system form along that frontal boundary. Just see how quickly that develops there. And then, yeah, I definitely saw stronger winds there for a brief second. So look at this, for this buoy out here outside of Cape Disappointment by 100 or so miles, 78 mile-per-hour wind gusts. And see, it brings a strong period of winds. So once you go out from about 144 hours, I think, then it goes to 6-hour intervals on the model. So this would be between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. on Wednesday the 24th. This should be taken with a grain of salt, though, because we're still too far out to accurately predict this. It does have really strong winds in southern Vancouver Island, parts of the BC mainland here, over 60 miles per hour. It shows 90 miles per hour off the coast of central Vancouver Island, if this were to verify. 38 miles per hour for SeaTac, 35 for Bremerton, 39 for Paynefield, 41 for Bellingham. Very interesting new development there. And it has an area of low pressure moving into the Columbia River area. It keeps the strongest winds south of here. So for sure, looks like a couple of close calls coming up in the extended forecast. So yeah, I'm seeing a number of close calls with potential windstorms. Yeah, that's a direct hit with a really deep trough right there. And then, oh man, that one's even deeper. If something like this verified, that would just be incredible for this time of the year. Like, look, 500 millibar heights of 537 decameters. That is extremely low. See, it has the height anomaly here at minus 375.9 decameters. Or actually, these are meters. The anomaly is in meters, but the height is in decameters. So 375.9 meters below average for 500 millibar heights, which is indicative of an extremely robust upper level trough moving in, which would definitely bring a wind threat to this area. 100%. It's got, if this was about 50 miles farther to the north and closer in range, I'd 100% be sounding the alarm on this. It's still way too far out. We're at 288 hours out here. So most likely there's about a 95% chance this will not verify exactly as is predicted. But I will definitely mention it on the subscriber pages for sure. So on Facebook and Patreon. 100%. I think as soon as this stream's over, I may have to get on this. Some really impressive signals showing up here on the European. It literally has these storms striking like 36 hours apart from each other in the same relative area. And this right here, this should be critical to our area. If this were a few miles farther to the east, then we'd definitely be raising concerns for this. This is closer in range too, just as a heads up. This is definitely closer in range than the one that was like 10 to 12 days out that I just showed. It's just something to keep tabs on 100%. So yeah, it definitely looks like the flip towards the northeastern Pacific storm train is inbound shortly. Time to get up for a stretch. I'll be right back. Just got a report here that the wind from the east-southeast is picking up volcanic ash from the 1980 Mount St. Helens eruption and blowing it into the air right now. Really fascinating that we're seeing that at the moment. Definitely seeing some of those east-southeasterlies around Mount St. Helens. So I can see why it's picking up some ash deposits. That would probably look completely wicked right now if I were down there. All right, any more questions or comments from anyone viewing right now? Oh, yep, there's the image. I'm gonna share that to my Facebook story. So this is an image I got of ash being blown off of Mount St. Helens right now by the winds coming out of the southeast. So it almost looks like a low-end eruption, but it's not. We have 45-mile-per-hour gusts around the Riverbend area. Still a nothing burger for Stevens. I know I'm going to be hearing a lot of complaints from areas up north that they didn't get any wind and that, you know, it's a bust and that I need to retire. I'm kind of expecting it at this point. So let's see here, 35, 33 here in Enumclaw, 40 miles per hour near Greenwater. A little bit of a breeze just started here in Milton. I'm thinking the models are overdoing it a bit for the Stevens Gap. Yes, Carrie, that is extremely crazy. That's courtesy of the Geological Survey. Okie doke. How can anyone call you responsible for our crazy weather? Nothing has been normal this year, all good. You'd be extremely surprised what goes on. I can guarantee you would be extremely surprised what happens on Facebook. Yeah, these are 24-hour max temperatures from the NAM 3KM. Just start waiting for the 18Z to start rendering here shortly. Then, trying to figure out what I was checking out here. Let's check out precipitation over the next 60 hours. So no difference here. Very weak precipitation along the coast, an exception for parts of Pacific County. And some isolated hit or miss showers for just parts of the Puget Sound. Not very much, but just parts. It won't be until we go out into the extended where we really start to see this precip add up, and watch how quickly it does. So after 15 days, it wants to bring almost 5 inches to some areas of the lowlands, which I believe it's overkill. Honestly, it's definitely overkill. I could see upwards of 2.5 inches. I could go switch to 12-hour rainfall amounts. So this is our front that should be moving through on Sunday. Then it has what looks like another front coming in that Wednesday. And then just a steady progression of rain. Like even some stupidly high amounts of rainfall coming through as we go into the following weekend after that. Yeah, that's associated with that upper level spin, that low I wanted to come through. Actually, 2 straight lows. No, that's three consecutive low pressure systems, and then maybe an atmospheric river on top of it. So yeah, these are first official signs. I'm starting to see the signs of the storm train firing back up once more. So if you guys missed summer, then hate to be the bearer of bad news, but oh yeah. If the European deterministic is right, we're showing monstrous precipitation amounts. But if you see when I switch to the ensembles, it's significantly less, because it's trying to factor out some of those outliers and average the results. So usually you want to lean more towards the ensemble than the deterministic. Usually. Yeah, the ensembles are showing far less activity, but it's still showing some areas of low pressure, making a close approach to our coastline. I think the new 12Z European is probably going a little bit too robust on these storm systems. See here, it wants to bring 3 straight. This is our 192. So this is about 4.5 to 5 days. It wants to bring 3 extremely strong weather systems into the Pacific Northwest, like way out in the extended. And we just hit an hour and a half on the stream. I think I'm going to get things wrapped up and head out to my mom's house because Just had a driver reset. Okay, there we go. Probably head out to my parents' house to water the grass because it's going to be bone dry and hotter than ever today. Thankfully, I put some fertilizer on the grass about a week ago, so that'll really help. But still, it needs water. I don't have a sprinkler system set up, so it's kind of a bummer. Very impressive. See if I can pull this up. I saw this on Blue Sky. This is the observation cam for Mount St. Helens, and it's pulling dense ash out of the mountain and towards the west-northwesterly direction. So really impressive what we're seeing there. Yeah, it appears that we've hit our peak. So I think models definitely seem to have overdid it for north of Stampede Gap. Like for anywhere along the Stevens Gap, probably around time to call it a bust. For the north end at least. The rest of it, it's close. Because a lot of people are disappointed with this Mount Rainier wind shadow that's being casted across a lot of the South Sound. So quickly, I'd say rather have what you see and not happen rather than no warning. Yes, and that's the perfect mindset to have. So thank you for bringing that up because unfortunately, there's a lot of ignorance spread around the comment section on my posts. And so much ignorance at one point actually that for heat alerts, I've had to silence notifications for non-followers, just because, like, I was actually getting hate directly pointed towards me in the comment sections on Facebook at one point in time when I was posting heat advisories and extreme heat warnings. It's just a lot of people viewing from other states were chiming in to the point where I had to disable comments for non-followers permanently on any heat posts that I made. Too bad, but it is what it is. We're well into the 80s now for a lot of areas east of I-405. Some of it's making it west of I-405. 83 here at Northgate now. The 80 degrees is to Homish, 81 in the Mill Creek area. Up to 82, if that's correct. 82 at Olympic View Elementary and Federal Way. 83 on the east side of Lake Tapps. Now over 80 degrees across all of Enumclaw. You notice the farther west we get, an exception of a few points, they're still mainly in the 60s and 70s. Well into the 80s down here in Portland now. Yeah, there's a lot going on in the weather world over the next 36 hours or so, at least I should say the next like 24. Because the front's not going to amount to much, but a lot of people are going to be like, oh wow, it cooled off real fast. That's just because of that sudden flip back to onshore flow. Like this is a one and done kind of thing. The heat, the dry air, the winds, it's literally one day, less than one day, and it's back to normal after that. 80 in Carnation, 80 in North Bend, 80 in Hobart now. Yeah, northwestern Enumclaw and the outskirts is at 83. And 73 at SeaTac Airport right now. It'll be interesting to see just how high the station gets. So far, max temperature is 75 degrees at SeaTac. And if models are right, we're definitely in jeopardy of breaking some record highs today. 100%. I feel like there will be at least a few record highs broken, if not shattered, around some of Western Washington. All right, anyone, do we have any last minute comments, questions, or concerns? I do believe I'm going to wrap this thing up. Yeah, viewership's way down today. So it gotta be the time of the day and time of the week. You know, it is what it is. But I had like 30 people say that they wanted me to stream. And unfortunately, a lot of them did not make it on today. Guessing they probably meant that I was going to stream later in the day. And not within like a half hour of posting that. Why communication is critical for a lot of these things. A couple of other announcements as well. So we just hit 84 just outside of Renton already. And it's not even noon. But let's see here. So let's go do an air quality checkup around Western Washington. Starting to drop a bit through these mountain gaps. Yesterday during the briefing, we were green all around Western Washington, in exception of a few parts. Starting to get those yellow and light oranges here in the North Sound. Other than that, still doing okay here in the South End. We have some of those lime colors starting to pop up. And it's quickly dropping off again here in Eastern Washington along the slopes, where all those fires are burning. Starting to get potentially hazardous around areas of Wenatchee, Leavenworth, and the vicinity. On the fire map. No new updates to the Tunnel Creek, still at 290 acres. Bear Gulch is closing in on 11,000 acres. We have the small little fire here that registered 2 days ago, but it's not showing any size or containment information on it. I have a new one that just popped up here, Salmonberry along I-5. Like, literally on I-5. Along the Toutle River down here. This is near Castle Rock. 4 acres, says it's grown 3 in the last 24 hours. Active for 21 hours. A lot of these are small little vegetation or other recreational burns. Wildcat Fire's over 8,400. Sugarloaf is over 18,000. Labor Mountain's closing in on 5,000. Perry Fire, I was impressed to see this yesterday, how it shot up to 40% contain. I think some of those wetter storms that we had within the last week really helped to contain that fire up here, which is great news. Then, of course, some of our other Eastern Washington fires. Rattlesnake is 90% contained now, but still closing in on 22,000 acres total. Lynx Mountain to the north of it, 30% containment, but almost 8,000 acres. Tacoma Creek, about halfway contained, still closing in on 4,000 acres. Crown Creek is 40% contained, but over 14,000 acres. Oh, got an alarm going off, hang on. Yeah, unfortunately, one of my radios has a switch that's stuck, so sometimes it'll have the alarm set for around this time. So that's what that sound was, in case anybody heard it. Yeah, just a considerable amount of fires here on the east side right now. It's really too bad, honestly. Anyways, if you guys wanted to check out any of my posts on Patreon, I posted a link in the comment box. I also have the link in my descriptions for my videos. I have the Puget Sound Stormwatch merch shop. Currently have 4 designs. I'm working on a few more. I just haven't had much progress done on those. Been doing a lot of work outside of the apartment that I'm living in, which I also call my studio. I've also been focusing on briefings and blog posts primarily, so I haven't had much spare time to get some more of these designs published, but I do have a lot of ideas that I do want to publish soon. Also have this site, I think this is pronounced coffee.com. If you guys are interested in any one-time donations to help keep Puget Sound Stormwatch up and full time, this link is also in the descriptions of my videos. I'll also post it down below in the comment box for anyone that's interested. And I believe that's it for that. Go do one more quick checkup on wind gusts. Yeah, I think we're over the apex of this event now. So I'm gonna have to deal with a lot of people saying it's a bust. Unfortunately, but it is what it is. Alright everyone, anyone watching, do we have any very last minute questions, comments, or concerns for the chat? Gonna be wrapping it up here in a few minutes. So give anyone time that wants to ask any questions to do so if they feel like it. Just looking through all the comments on Facebook right now, they're still just pouring in. Really glad to see the shares are getting out there. So good to see that the word's being spread and that the communication is as good as I can prescribe it to people. Yeah, the notifications are just endless on Facebook. Alright then, well, I guess that's going to wrap things up for today. This live stream will... 76 degrees also now predicts 88. Wowzer. Yeah. It's very possible. I don't see how the temperatures don't verify for most of the Puget Sound. It's going to be a steamer out there today. I think with all of that, it's time to wrap things up for today. For sure. Be interested to see if they cancel the wind advisory for the northern end of the foothills. Because not seeing anything coming out of the Stevens Gap right now. And I mean anything. So thank you for everyone that tuned in today. You're all the best viewers. If you guys like this stream, go ahead and share Puget Sound Stormwatch to your friends. Tell them to subscribe if they have YouTube, or if they're on Facebook, go ahead and follow Puget Sound Stormwatch. Little ways over 23k subs or followers, excuse me, at the moment. I'm at 23,423 on Facebook, 453 subscribers on YouTube and counting. So thank you everyone who has subscribed. But it's time to wrap things up for today. This was Anthony with Puget Sound Stormwatch on YouTube, Facebook, and other platforms. Signing off for today, this will be taking place of today's weather briefing. So, just as a heads up, no briefing today. I'm doing the stream instead. So, thank you guys again, and you all have a wonderful day. Hopefully the winds don't get too intense where you are.